Hello, and welcome to the New York Empoleon's Week 2 Team Builder against the Calgary Infernape, coached by Aaron2420. He is the only coach in the GBA D-League that I have fought before. We managed a 1-0 last time on a critical hit Draconium Z from a Haxorus onto a Zapdos. So that battle went straight down to the wire. It was a super fun battle, so hopefully this one is as exciting, as interesting. Aaron is a fun battler to play against. His draft is terrifying, and I'm excited to face him. Now, his team is Mega Kangaskhan, Thunderous Eye, Hydreigon, Volcanion, Decidueye, Bronzong, Aerodactyl, Donphan, Shelmet, Hariyama, and Sylveon. And honestly, first glance at this team, it doesn't look as scary, and then you keep looking at it and you're like, no, that team is absolutely horrifying. And I kept analyzing, kept studying, and trying to figure out what I thought he was going to run. Now, Thunderous Eye is his only Z user. I think that thing is coming against my team. It hits my top speed, which is 111. It speed ties with Tornadus, and therefore outspeeds the rest of my entire team. Aerodactyl obviously also outspeeds my entire team, which is a problem. I think Donphan's a pretty good bring for him because it has Rapid Spin instead of Defog, and my team does not. I mean, I just don't expect people to run Defog against me very often, mostly because of the fact that I can just absorb it with two different Defiant users and competitive. So Donphan's, I think, is coming this week. Hydreigon looks like a pretty good Pokemon for him to bring. Mega Kangaskhan seems to be up his alley. Bronzong, Decidueye, Volcanion. I mean, his entire team is terrifying, but the one thing that is the most horrifying to me is that Hariyama. I really over-focused on the Hariyama. So zoned in on that. We're making sure we have a couple answers to it, because if we don't, we're just going to get destroyed. I've seen it before. So the first thing that we want to have is an answer to it in Gardevoir with the Babiri Berry. 76 HP, 252 special attack, 180 speed with a positive speed nature. Allows it to outspeed any of his base 70s, which is Volcanion, Decidueye. His team has a really big speed gap in between 70 and 98, which means that all my fun base 80s actually can hit like a nice little speed tier in between those and outspeed everything underneath them and not necessarily worry about things above them. So this thing is, I was thinking about Assault Vest. I kind of juggled Assault Vest versus Babiri Berry, but the Babiri Berry allows it to take 2 Bullet Punches, which is huge. And so the reason that's huge is because 2 Moonblast would kill an Assault Vested Hariyama. So I think that this thing can be as long as it's at full health, Hariyama can't be a safe switch into it. It can't just handle me, for instance. Now he could theoretically go for like a knockoff and then a Bullet Punch or something like that, but there's nothing I can do about that to some degree, and I'll still get a huge Moonblast off. So that is a good thing for me to know. But at the same time, Hariyama is just terrifying for everything. So if he's Assault Vest, that means he's not going to be Statused, which means he's not going to be Guts, which means he's going to be doing a little bit less damage. If he is Guts with a status thing, then I know he's not Assault Vested, and Moonblast does so much more damage. So I really have to figure out what set the Hariyama is running, but once I know, then I can really play around it. The other coverage moves on here, Energy Ball, Shadow Ball, and Thunderbolt, handle a majority of his team. Going down the list, it just handles like almost everything that isn't named Mega Kangaskhan, and Mega Kangaskhan doesn't love taking a Moonblast. Not to mention that Trace allows me to Trace Parental Bond. I can't take a Double Edge from a Mega Kangaskhan, or a Return even, so I don't necessarily think that I'm going to be playing into a Parental Bond Gardevoir, but I could, in theory, depending on if I know his set or whatever, or if I bluff a Scarf and come in on that. So there is that option on the Mega Kangaskhan to get Parental Bond Gardevoir, which would be super funny. But Thunderbolt handles the Volcanion, and Moonblast handles the Hydreigon, and Shadow Balls for the Decidueye, and the Bronzong, and Thunderbolt handles the Aerodactyl, and Energy Balls for the Donphan, and then there's Shelmet, which I can't hit with anything ever. And so there's just like going down the list, there's thing after thing after thing this Gardevoir can handle, as long as it can be in safely, but it really is an answer to Hariyama in some regard. I'm terrified of the Hariyama just destroying me, and if he doesn't bring it, that would be amazing. I would actually love not to see the Hariyama. So next up we have Milotic. So same as week 1, the Gardevoir, Milotic coming together. This time we are going to be rocking Rocky Helmet with a Marvel Scale, obviously for the Mega Kangaskhan, again for the Hariyama as well, for the Donphan potentially, depending on the set it's running. Decidueye obviously doesn't want to hit this thing. Bronzong if it's a physical attacker. So he's got a lot of options, U-turn Hydreigon, for instance. So we are running max defense and max HP. Scald, Ice Beam, Recover, Toxic. Very, very standard Milotic set. I don't usually run something this standard, but it actually matches up so well against his team. I don't know why, but between Ice Beam handling Thundurus, Hydreigon, Decidueye, Aerodactyl, and Donphan, and Scald handling being neutral on almost everything else that isn't Volcanion, and then Toxic there specifically for Volcanion and Sylveon, I really honestly just love the way this Pokemon matches up against his team. Now, I do have to watch out for that Guts Hariyama, especially a Guts Hariyama holding a Assault Vest, because if I click Toxic and he does bring in the Hariyama, it becomes a lot scarier. But at the same time, it really can't do much to me, so I can just kind of recover stall the Toxic away and wait for it to chip itself down and die. So that is the plan with Milotic. If it does have to handle Hariyama between Rocky Helmet and Recover and Toxic, that is one way to deal with it. Even a Guts boosted Close Combat is a 2-hit KO. So as long as I outspeed and recover, I'm okay. So that should be a lot of fun this week. I think it should work out for me pretty well. I'm not 100% sure if this Milotic's going to do everything I want it to, but again, it's really for Mega Kangaskhan and the Hariyama. Now, if I do manage to get status somehow from whatever manages to status me, I actually have the EVs to survive. The reason I max defense is because I can survive a +2 double edge from a Mega Kangaskhan at full if I'm statused, which is, I mean, that's so much recoil damage between Rocky Helmet and the double edge recoil, and I survive, so then I can at least do something back as well, like Scald. So if he power up punches and kills something, then I can at least switch this thing in if I do manage to get statused in some way. Now, next up we have Victini. Again, this Victini is going to be Choice Banded. It's going to be holding, it's not holding, it's going to be Rockin', Bolt Strike, V-Create, U-Turn, and Zen Headbutt. Just enough speed to outspeed a Hydreigon every time. It does get outsped by a max speed Jolly Mega Kangaskhan, but otherwise, Mega Kangaskhan, it's adamant, does not outspeed me. This thing is a nuke of the utmost, and I needed the Choice Band in order to get just a little bit more damage on some things, just to get those Okos, especially with the help of Stealth Rocks. I really needed that. Zen Headbutt, especially on the Hariyama, was a big one, but even U-Turn being a guaranteed 2-hit KO on the Decidueye and Bronzong, and the Hydreigon, V-Create, I mean, Choice Band of V-Create is just a nuke. It just destroys things. So Donphan's obviously a decent switch in. A Heat-proof Bronzong would be annoying. But other than that, I mean, V-Create's just gonna nuke something. Volcanion can take a V-Create, but it can't take a Bolt Strike. So if I'm whittling his team down a little bit, that's a really, really good way for me to get that final hit on the Volcanion. The final hit. If it's got Stealth Rocks up, then Volcanion just dies to a Choice Banded Bolt Strike. So this thing should be able to come in as a nuke. It should be able to come in and just destroy things. If this Victini doesn't take at least one Pokemon with it this week, I will be very disappointed with the way I played it. I think the one big drawback is that if I do lock myself into V-Create too early, I do have to switch out hard. But I think Milotic and Mega Venusaur can both take the hits they need to take in order to be switched in hard, so I think that's actually okay. It's not great, but he'd be switching in something defensive, so like a Bronzong or a Donphan, and that would be able to be easily eaten up by Milotic specifically. So I think that that's a good answer to those. I do worry about him setting up his own rocks with that Donphan, so I do need to make sure that I have a reliable way of removing the rocks, which I in fact do on my Choice Scarf Excadrill. Now, again, Choice Scarf Rapid Spin may be a very questionable decision, but that is the way that I play the game, and I'm used to using a Choice Scarf Excadrill outside of League format with Rapid Spin on it, so I know how to play that. This thing is 252 max attack adamant with 212 speed. 212 speed, again, it's that crucial, like, get it over the base 70s no matter what. And I'm not going to outspeed a Hydreigon anyway, but it also allows me to outspeed everything on his team that isn't Scarfed, so that's a really good speed spot to have. Now I'm running Mold Breaker this week, not Sand. I went back and forth on Sand a lot. This team actually would do really well against his with Sand, but I decided not to run it specifically because of the Hariyama. If I was bringing Gigalith, I'd have so many fighting weaknesses that I just couldn't justify it. But Mold Breaker allows me to hit the Bronzong harder. It hits the Hydreigon with Earthquake, so everything except Thundurus and Aerodactyl get hit with Earthquake, and neither of those two things want to take a Rock Slide, so I can always predict those coming in and go for that Rock Slide. Iron Head just bodies a Sylveon. It does a lot of damage to something like an Aerodactyl if I'm worried about the Earthquake prediction, and not 100% sure he's going to go into Thundurus there. and then and it hits the Decidueye harder than anything else. So that is, and the Shelmet. So that is a pretty good just tech move to have. Obviously, it's stab. You don't really tech a stab move, but Iron Head wasn't super useful. I don't expect to click it that often, but it does exist in case I want it. And then Rapid Spin, obviously, because I need those rocks to be not on the field for Victini, and this thing can come in and Choice Scarf spin away the rocks. That might sack off my Excadrill at some point, but if the rocks are gone, that is huge for me. So one thing I can do is lead Excadrill, scout, kind of see what he wants to lead with. But that's probably not the way I'm going to lead. I have my lead matchup sort of planned this week as well. Next up, we have Mega Venusaur holding the Venusaurite. It's got Thick Fat for its ability. Obviously, it'll be Chlorophyll before it Mega Evolves, and it's going to be a lot of EVs. I mean, so a ton of HP, but it's an even amount of HP because Synthesis is otherwise wasting its ability. So you should always run an even amount of HP if you are running a recovery move, because 50% of an even number and 50% of an odd number are the same. So you kind of want to get the most value out of it, and you can put those EVs somewhere else. 180 defense allows me to take a Z Fly from a not max invested Thundurus. 4 in special attack would just fell there. 60 in special defense allows me to take special defense just a little bit better. And 20 speed is, again, in case he decides to do something crazy and try to speed creep. But who knows what he's going to try to do with that. So 20 speed was really just kind of a catch-all in case something is, you know, out of line. I want to make sure that this Mega Venusaur can just outspeed it by a little bit. Sludge Bomb, Giga Drain, Leech Seed, and Synthesis. Again, fairly standard looking set when you look at it on the surface, but at the same time, effective. Leech Seed really gives me an answer to something like a Shelmet. It gives me an answer to Bronzong that I otherwise cannot touch. Volcanion doesn't want to come in on a Leech Seed. Mega Kangaskhan or Thundurus don't want to just sit there when they're Leech Seeded, because between Leech Seed and Synthesis, I can kind of just stay in and do whatever I want. And then Sludge Bomb is there for the Sylveon. It hits things harder, like the Decidueye and the Volcanion, a little bit harder than Giga Drain, and then Giga Drain is also just more recovery. This thing should be able to handle just about anything that he's throwing at it. Synthesis this week is really helpful now that I'm not running Sand. This would have been run with Sand. If I had Sand, I would have gone Sleep Powder instead of Synthesis, but I think having the recovery on this thing will help it survive and help it really put in the work as this week pushes itself onwards. And finally, we have Jafar. No, this is not a reference to Aladdin. If you don't know, Nino and Jafar are two characters from Fire Emblem, and they have a really cute storyline, and Jafar is a assassin, and Nino is a little mage, and so I thought the Gardevoir and Bisharp being so well compatible together, and Bisharp kind of looking like a dark assassin, kind of shady, and Nino being, I mean, basically a mage character, the Gardevoir being basically a mage character. I thought those two just kind of matched up really well, and I thought it was cute. So the two F's in Jafar, referencing Fire Emblem. If there's one F in Jafar, that's how you spell it for Aladdin. That's an important clarification for this. Anyway, Bisharp holding the Choppleberry. This is a fantastic set. I'm so proud of myself for this set. It's probably not going to work. It never does. But this thing is Choppleberry. I was going to run Inner Focus. I ended up deciding on Defiant. But Inner Focus would have been interesting because I could have led this thing. If he led Mega Kangaskhan, he could have gone for a Fake Out. It wouldn't have done anything to me, basically. And then I could have actually low-kicked him, and then Sucker Punch would kill from there. As it stands, what I actually did is I ran Choppleberry Defiant with 244 HP and 52 defense. That makes it so that I can actually take a low kick from a Mega Kangaskhan guaranteed without a critical hit. So if he or a Power Up Punch, either one. So if he goes for that, I can go for low kick and then go for Sucker Punch on the following turn. If he doesn't lead Mega Kangaskhan, anything else that he leads, I set up my rocks. I want my rocks up so badly. I know he has a billion defoggers, and that's why I decided on Defiant instead of on Inner Focus, is because most of his ability to remove hazards, if it's not named Donphan, is a defog user. But this is my priority. It's got Sucker Punch on it. It's got Iron Head. Again, Steel Stab, not that vital this week, but helpful nonetheless because it is Stab. And then it's got the low kick for anything that the Sucker Punch doesn't really want to handle. Namely the Hydreigon, the Mega Kangaskhan, stuff like that. And then otherwise, this thing is really, it's my rocker, it's my lead. Pretty much no matter what 6 Pokemon he brings, it's a pretty solid lead. And then it'll be able to go for that low kick Sucker Punch combo on the Mega Kangaskhan or Stealth Rocks if he leads with something like the Hydreigon. I do survive from full with 20 special defense and 244 HP. I do survive an Earth Power from a Hydreigon, which is super cool. And then I also am able to take... I cannot take a close combat from a Hariyama. I do have to be wary of that. But I can take an Earthquake from an Aerodactyl. I can take, you know, just about any super effective hit from anything except for a close combat from Hariyama. Which is why I'm so scared of Hariyama this week. Bisharp doesn't do a ton for me as far as, like, individually matching up super well against his team, but it does give me access to Sucker Punch, so I do have that priority. I do want to preserve that in case I need it late game. It does give me another rock resistance, which is huge. It is my rocker this week because I couldn't fit that onto my Excadrill, and I didn't want to bring the sand in Gigalith. Gigalith did okay against this team, and it would have been my rocker as well. I could have run Sturdy instead of running Sand, but it gives too much away about my sets, and instead I decided to run with the Bisharp and try that out this week. So we'll see how that goes. This team, again, his team terrifies me in a lot of ways, but I think the matchup that we've given ourselves is the best matchup we can have against Aaron this week. So we did beat him once before. I know that the hardest thing to do is beat someone twice, so he's going to come out, pull out all the stops. But I hope you guys are excited for tomorrow's battle against Aaron for 2420 and the Calgary Infernapes. Again, if you have not seen him before, his link is in the description below. I encourage you to go check out his team builder and his side of the battle. I am super excited to watch that myself and see what he's thinking when he faces my team down. I will talk to you guys tomorrow with this battle. It's going to be hype. If you have not subscribed to me, do so now. If you have not followed me on Twitch, do so now. I'm still getting used to saying things like that at the end of my videos because I hope you guys actually do watch me to the end of my videos. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow with another GBA D-League Season 4 battle. Take care, everybody.